Good evening, welcome. I'm Rose, a bookseller at Literati Bookstore. We're pleased to welcome Jonny Sun to our At Home with Literati series in support of Goodbye Again. He'll be in conversation with Dylan Marron. Just a quick webinar overview for our attendees. The chat is closed, but you may want to keep the chat window open during the event, as I will be dropping links to purchase Goodbye Again from Literati throughout the event. You can also use the Q&A feature on your toolbar to submit questions at any time, and I will ask a selection at the conclusion of our conversation, or the conversation might just keep going. A reminder, you can also shop for more books at literatibookstore.com for curbside pickup if you live in Southeast Michigan, or to have them shipped to your home anywhere in the United States. In lieu of a book purchase, we also ask that you consider a $5 donation to sustain our virtual programming. Whether you'd like to think of it as this week, this month, or this year's subscription to our programming, you can make donations at literatibookstore.com/donation. Otherwise, we simply thank you for your attendance this evening, or this morning, or this afternoon, depending on where and when in the world you may be joining us. And now, allow me to introduce tonight's author and our moderator. Jonny Sun is the best-selling author and illustrator of When Everyone's an Alien, You're an Alien Too, and the illustrator of Good Morning, Good Night by Lin-Manuel Miranda. He was a writer for the Emmy-nominated 6th season of the Netflix original series BoJack Horseman, and is currently writing a movie, a new book, and multiple other projects. As a doctoral candidate at MIT and a creative researcher at the Harvard Meta Lab, he studies social media, virtual place, and online community. He has a master's degree in architecture from Yale and a bachelor's degree in engineering from the University of Toronto. Time magazine named him one of the 25 most influential people on the internet in 2017, and in 2019, he was named to the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. He has also given a TED Talk that has been viewed online over 3 million times. Dylan Marron is a Webby-winning digital creator. He hosts and produces the podcast Conversations with People Who Hate Me. His forthcoming book, Snowflake, will be published by Atria in 2022.
Yay, thank you, Rose. Give it up for Rose. We're in an arena right now, so I imagine that just the crowd's going wild. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Rose. Jonny, it is so thrilling to be here with you. Hi.
Hey, I miss you.
I miss you so much. We have not seen each other all pandemic. And I miss you a lot. And now I get to see you and your plants, which I know we're gonna get a tour of them later. It would be inappropriate if we didn't. I mean, this literally feels like the cover of the book we're here to discuss. Goodbye Again.
Yes. It's it was not a coincidence that
I love it. I love it. So I just wanted to remind our amazing guests that you can drop questions into the Q&A throughout our talk. I will be picking them out and asking them. I will credit you, and then it'll just be an organic discussion. But Jonny, my angel, my love, I think you're gonna bless us with some readings. Is that true?
Yes, I am gonna. I'll read a couple things.
Perfect.
And then we can get to the fun part of.
I love it. Okay, I'm gonna stop my video and then I'll return.
Oh wow. Okay, great. Okay,
yeah.
cool. I'll be like up alone on stage. Oh, great. All right. Okay. This first one is called Anxiety Tax, which Dylan asked me to read. Anxiety tax. One way of coping with my anxiety has been to imagine it as a tax. In order to do the things I want to do, in order to go about my life, or to get anything done at all, I just need to pay the anxiety tax first. The tension and soreness I feel in my shoulders that never goes away, the hour of preparation it takes for me to talk myself into leaving the house, the constant fear that I will say the wrongest thing, or write the wrongest thing, or do the wrongest thing without even knowing it. These are all part of the tax. I don't know if it's healthy, but at least it helps me separate my anxiety from myself. It's not who I am. It's not my personality. It doesn't represent me. It's just a tax I pay so that whoever I really am can go about his life. That was a short one. It was this long. And then thank you. And I'll read the next one next.
Okay, great.
I'm gonna share the screen. This one's called Pathos. This is another short one. I guess I should preface this by saying most of the pieces in this book are short. And I'm also talking because I did not bookmark where these essays are in the book. So I'm just talking until I can find.
Oh my God, I opened right to it.
Oh no, what page is it?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you, it's page 153. Isn't that wild?
3. Wow. There it is.
Wow.
Thank you, Dylan.
You're so welcome.
All right, this one is called Pathos. Pathos. I read that Pathos plants are able to thrive in pretty low light, so I kept ours in the back corner of our apartment, far from the window. I watered it regularly and it grew and seemed to be totally healthy and unbothered by its low light situation, so I was happy that what I had read was right. Except that after a few weeks of sitting in this corner, I noticed that the plant was growing quite lopsidedly toward the window, leaves reaching, aching toward the light. It looked unbalanced, only growing to one side, and because I couldn't move the window to the other side of the plant, I rotated the pot so that the other side of the plant could face the window. Elisa said to stop messing with it, that moving it around would disturb the plant, but I thought that it began to look better after a few weeks in its new orientation. It was a bit more balanced, its leaves now reaching out to the window on its other side as well. The only thing that seemed unbalanced now was that the limbs that were originally reaching out to the window seemed to notice that they were no longer facing the window, and so they had turned around, reaching for the light that was now behind them. As the limbs of the Pathos grew longer and longer, their reaching, their yearning, got more noticeable. One afternoon, this made me feel guilty enough for keeping the plant in its dark, perfectly fine, low-lit corner that I moved it right up to the window, placing it directly into the light, so it could have what it was reaching for. A few days later, its leaves started to turn pale and brown. It had burned in the sun. The end.
So beautiful.
Thank you. And I'll read one more. I'll read one more, and then we can talk.
I love it.
This one's called "Your Last 15 Minutes Before the End of the World," ranked from worst to best. Number 15, minute 15. Seeing for the first time an alert that the world will end in 15 minutes. The feeling of a lurching stomach and a sweating that will not stop, waiting for a breathing that will not start. Number 14, minute 4. Realizing fully without hope how truly little time you have left. 4 minutes may be enough time on average to listen to a favorite song of yours in full one final time, but perhaps not enough time to properly deliberate among all the options for what song that should be, to make a fully thought out choice on which one you want to hear, and then have enough time left to play it all the way through. Not knowing what else to do, you decide to go with silence and move your furniture around so that you can sit and look directly out the window and up at the sun and at least feel the daylight flooding in. Number 13, minute 11. Finding out the reason why the world is ending, confirming that yes, the world will end, that all this news is real, and being filled with a rage and a hopelessness and a complete and utter lack of surprise, a feeling of, oh, well, of course this is how it's all going to end. Of course it is, of course. Number 12, minute 7, listening too long to the ringing as you try to FaceTime your mom. Number 11, minute 10, the deep anxiety in realizing that 5 minutes have already passed since you found out that the world was going to end, and that you would do anything to get those 5 minutes back. Number 10, minute 5, being on a group FaceTime with your entire family, being grateful that at least in this small way you are together, even though you are not saying anything at all, even though you are just crying, and you're just watching your mom take screenshot after screenshot of her own screen, even though there's no reason to save any more screenshots any longer. Every few seconds, she will accidentally fail to press the lock button and the volume button at the exact same time, and her video will go dark and your heart plummets, but then you hear her voice saying that she just locked her screen by accident and her face will appear again. You think about getting upset at her for doing this, to tell her to just be present, but then you say nothing and start taking screenshots too. For what seems like forever, you are all just taking screenshots, saying nothing in a quiet agreement, just saving screenshots of each other, knowing that they won't matter, but not knowing what else to do. And then your call gets disconnected. You try to call back, and you connect, but the video is a useless pixelated blur. The audio is choppy, but through it, you can still tell that your mom is taking screenshots of the call. Then the call gets disconnected again, and this time you can't call back. You can't get any signal. You check your data and it's gone. The network has either been disconnected or maybe overloaded, but either way, it's the same outcome to you. Number 9, minute 13, opening your phone to check the news and feeling the brief final moment of uncertainty and doubt that you'll ever feel. The last time you'll ever think, this can't be real, can it? Any amount of trust in your own disbelief. Number 8, minute 9, crying, not in fear, but as a way to distract yourself from the fear. 7, minute 8, the clarity of feeling everything you thought you cared about, sloughing off of you, slipping away, leaving you dizzy, disoriented, with a feeling of lightness. There is so little that truly matters, isn't there? And what remains is real, and now at least you can live the rest of your life knowing with certainty that what remains is what is truly important to you. Number 6, minute 6. Hey, are you okay? Yeah, I don't know. Yes, are you? We love you. Is Dad okay? I'm okay. Is Chris okay? No, we're trying to call him. He's not answering. No. Oh, okay, I love you. We love you. Oh, wait, he's calling. Let me loop him in. Hey, I'm scared. Tried to reach you. We're here. I love you. 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 Number 5, minute 3. Minute 3, realizing the reason that your mom took those screenshots was because she'll be looking at those as the world ends. Then, being overwhelmed with gratitude, you take out your phone and look at your own screenshots. You wish you had more photos of them, but at least you have these. Then crying again, not in fear, but as a way to connect yourself to love, knowing that the ones you love are crying too. Number 4, minute 14. Realizing that you are, through some small or quite large miracle, finding all of this out while sitting in the same room as the person you love, who you have committed to loving, who you have chosen to spend the rest of your life with, and realizing, for better or for worse, that this is it. Number 3, minute 2, turning off your phone, looking at the person you love, and declaring the things that matter most to you. Number 2, minute 1, reaching a state of calm and accepting that all you've done with your time on earth is enough because it must be enough, because it is all that will ever be. Number 1, the best minute of your last 15 minutes before the end of the world is minute 12, laughing at a good meme about the end of the world you saw online while you were in the middle of figuring out what was going on.
Yay!
Ew.
Jonny.
I feel like I resist reading that one because there's so many numbers involved, and I'm like,
there are a lot of numbers. Honey, you nailed it. It was perfect. I loved it. Jonny, I love this book so much. I felt calmer reading it. I felt I was with you as I read it. I loved the whole experience of reading it. And that's it. End of discussion.
Thank you very much.
Everyone
Thank you for coming.
or stay home, log off Zoom. No, there's so much I want to get to. There's so much I want to talk about. I guess to kind of start off, this is, of course, your 3rd book. We heard your lovely introduction. We have Everyone's an Alien. We also have Good Morning, Good Night. But this is the first book as Jonny Sun, about Jonny Sun, by Jonny Sun. Does it feel different from the other 2? Or does this feel like, nope, this is the same, we're in line, this is the 3rd Jonny Sun book?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like it's close. I feel like I've changed as a person throughout the experience of doing these 3 books. And so the weird process of changing as a person and then trying to make art around sort of who you are at a specific moment in time means that I feel like it'll feel like you'll slowly start to converge on a specific thing that you actually are, but I feel like you'll never get there because by the time you finish your latest thing, the person you are is now a different person than when you started it. And so it's always this game of catch up. And so I'd say this book feels the most like me, the most recently in a way. But I also don't think it's that different from Everyone's an Alien, because both of these things are very much about trying to put to words a specific feeling or a set of specific feelings. And I feel like the structure around them feels very similar, where it's a bunch of scattered stuff that I tried to make feel like they were circling the same things and that they were sort of related to each other, as opposed to just a bunch of random things. So.
Totally. I wanted to actually, I noticed, just because I'm a true Jonny Sun stan, I noticed a through line, which was, and I do just want to say, it's very clear that there is such a clear and concise and crystal clear Jonny Sun universe in which I exist. I have a ticket. I am building a home there.
Right. You're at the center of that universe.
Okay, everyone, please take note. I'm at the center of the Jonny Sun universe. It's actually about me. No, but okay, so it's from this incredible book, but I have transcribed it because I wanted to read it. So I'm reading it from up here. So in the activity log, the amazing activity log that you can find here of Everyone's an Alien, you write, okay, I'm quoting, day 33. It appears that some humans like being busy more than they like being friends. Day 93, humans put too much pressure on their damn work to make them happy. And then you write Goodbye Again, which is literally about busyness and work. So I feel like Jomny and Jonny are talking to each other. And then the opening of Goodbye Again, you write, here's you on pages 8 through 9. I even wrote this down for myself. It makes me sad that the thing that feels closest is taking any time and converting that into some sort of productiveness. I think instead of turning to people or to hobbies or to going places or seeing things, I find it easiest to turn to doing more work to try to fit or perhaps keep at bay that emptiness and that feeling that I can't ever fill that emptiness enough. I mean, I feel like when I write my master's thesis on Jomny Sun and Jonny Sun in conversation with each other in the style of like Frost Nixon, like that play, I'm going to write Jomny and Jonny. I mean, I feel like there's such an interesting conversation between the two. Like, do you feel that Jonny is still learning the lessons that Jomny learned from visiting Earth? How do you see the two in conversation with each other?
Yeah, I think like I've always seen them almost like parallel universe versions of myself. I think like one of the challenges between like with doing the new book is that like there's like a layer of like metaphor with this book that is that was almost like a protective layer, but also like a really fun like kind of device to use where I could kind of talk about myself with a lot of sort of openness without people necessarily realizing I was talking about myself, right? They think like, oh, this is about a character and like a specific story and it's like fiction. But with this one, it feels like the layers of metaphor, like analog, get removed, and so it's a little bit. It feels a little more direct and open in a specific way,
and vulnerable and terrifying.
Yeah, I think so, and like definitely more nerve-wracking because there was like a thing with this book where I feel like if someone and this happened where people were like, oh, it's so funny that like everyone's like super anxious, all the characters are super anxious, ha ha ha, and I'm like, yeah, that's really funny, that's not me at all. Like you could do that, but with this one you can't really do that, but they definitely do exist. I think I enjoy that they sort of, the two books sort of are like reflections of each other, or like mirror image. And I definitely looked at the first book in sort of how to structure the second book, because I think I learned a lot of lessons about kind of like moving a bunch of parts around and together in order to build like a momentum and like a narrative and like an emotional sort of through line, I guess.
Well, that's another question I had, is when did you stop writing for Goodbye Again? Because it feels like you've been collecting these thoughts and essays and ideas for a while. When were you like, I can't write a new essay for this, I must compose something out of what I have?
There's two answers.
Okay, I'm ready for both.
Answer, I feel like one answer is sort of like eventually it felt like I'd reached like saturation point. Like it felt like any idea. This actually happened a few times where like later on in the process, I was like, okay, I'm going to sit down and write about this. And I'd write out like a draft of an essay. And then I would look back at the stuff I'd already written and found the exact same essay already written like a year ago. And I just forgot that I had done. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, I need to do this. And
I just want to say, when that happens to me, I feel like that is a sign that you're on the right track, rather than doing what our brains typically do, which is like, why did I do this? I am a monster. I am plagiarizing myself, I think instead, I think it's a really good sign that your like body was willing this essay to be out there, and it means just as relevant. So
yeah. How do you, I'm gonna do the annoying thing that Elisa tells me not to do and like flip the question back on you.
Okay, I'm
like,
gonna report you to Elisa, but continue.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, like you're working on your book now.
Mhm.
How did you know when like the writing process was done? Because I'm also just curious how other people do it. And
Yeah,
especially
the truth is, I basically, something that I find maybe you do too, of like something that is really, really hard about writing nonfiction is
Yeah.
it could be about everything.
Yeah.
And even if you're focused on one topic or one experience you had, you're like, but I had millions of thoughts every day. So maybe it's about that. And especially, you know, the book I'm writing about is like how we talk to each other and how we talk to each other on the internet. And it's like when you crack open the topic of the internet, which I think we're very much learning is no longer one single topic, right? It's actually like too universal. But it's one thing that I just had such a hard time with was figuring out like, I need to figure out the story I'm telling with this book rather than thinking that I'm writing about the entire internet. So that, I think for me, it was just, I needed to stop. I just had like tens of thousands of words of notes.
Yeah.
And I essentially had to be like, Dylan, we cannot keep adding to these notes. We have to extract the book from these notes.
Right.
And then now what's been really helpful is I have a whole set of notes that are for like other things that those thoughts would go to. So I needed a receptacle for them.
Yeah. That's so helpful, isn't it? Like to have like the separate thing.
It does wonders for my brain. You inadvertently made a perfect segue to my next question.
Oh, great.
Which is that, okay, so I promise, so one, I am a Jonny Sun stan. I am in the center of the Jonny Sun universe. And I promise this is not just me lavishing praise on you, but we are here to celebrate you. This is your coronation. Also, New York Times bestseller as of what, 2 days ago?
Yeah.
I mean, I am honored. This is going on my resume. But one of my allow me to continue with my compliment. One of my favorite things about you is how you take such a nuanced approach to writing about and talking about tech. And what I mean by that is that you don't jump on board the like apathy train of like the world is trash and everything is bad, but you see tech as like something to understand of how we can find humanity within it. And I think that's something that has always drawn me to your work. I'm going to quote you again with a quote that I transcribed onto my computer. Okay, so this is from your essay on presence, page 135, for those reading along at home. Or you, Jonny, reading along. This is Jonny's first time reading Goodbye Again. So, okay, I'm going to quote you. You're talking about a friend who's good at texting.
Yeah.
And here's what you write. Quote, when texting, I find myself wondering what the equivalent of eye contact is, to the extent that there can be one, or what the equivalent of active listening is. That's the end quote. Okay. And so what I read the whole essay, I read the rest of the book. And so what I just love about that is like, rather than considering spaces like Twitter, spaces like text-based communication as like these places void of emotion, which I definitely want to be clear, I think they can be.
Yeah.
That you find ways to be like, how can we humanize this and how can we be humans in this space? Is that a conscious choice of yours to embrace it? And if so, or if not, like how did you kind of get to that point?
That's a great question.
Okay, every time after I ask a question, you have to say that's a great question.
I will. Absolutely.
It has to get better and better. Thank you.
Yeah, we have to make sure that it is a great question, and we'll tally it up at the end.
Okay, and then
they're all going to be great questions.
Thank you.
No, I think like part of it is that I've always had a trouble, or it's always felt like I've had trouble like articulating myself or like communicating in a way that feels like accurate to what I want to say. Like I think I've never felt very good at like speaking and like saying, like being in like live conversation, because it feels like there's constantly, it's like there's too much panic involved in directly like talking in real time sometimes, that the thing I actually want to say gets lost in sort of that panic and anxiety. And so like I found like I've always been excited about like alternate or other ways of like talking or communicating, because they're all opportunities to find different kind of avenues of expression, or to find like a slice of like expression that feels more kind of like authentic or more accurate compared to like a different type of expression. And I feel like none of them ever encapsulate like the full accuracy of communication, but I think each of them has like a different ability to articulate a different kind of section of that. And so like I think that's always been exciting, of like there is an excitement to being like, oh, this is a way that people communicate with each other. What are like the nuances of this? How do I get really good at kind of conveying myself in an accurate way and in the way that I want to? And I've always found that like text, and like by extension, I guess like Twitter, and by extension, just writing in general, has always felt pretty close for me, because it offers the opportunity to like get stuff down in words, and then like those words do your communicating for you. And I've always felt like, oh, I know how to like, I feel better about knowing how to like craft words, and then like trying to understand all the rules and nuances for each of the different mediums in order to like express myself, as opposed to like talking in person, which is generally like a panicky, sweaty mess. But I think like all of that like loops in to being like, oh, there are other means of communication. And I like, my other belief is that it's like, I feel like human connection is human connection, regardless of what the medium is or what the technology is. Some of them get in the way, or some of them have different rules than others. But I think like if people are trying to communicate, they'll find a way to do it. And it's like the excitement of like, how cool is it that like we've found like specific nuanced ways to do it across like any sort of medium that exists.
Yeah.
Even especially on things where like communication is not supposed to be part of the medium at all, people still have found a way to hack it so that like they can somehow communicate with someone else. And I think that's like really cool.
And I would call you a Twitter savant, but I feel like well, even better than that, I would say you're like, so I've been off social media for almost 10 months now, but I would say like you're one of the people I miss the most. And I could also always text you, but I really love the experience of Jonny on Twitter. But what would you say to critics like me, like the real me, who would say that Twitter is a really hard place for nuance? I mean, do you feel like it's something that we just haven't found a way to do? Do you think that maybe we should be questioning things like, what is eye contact on Twitter? What is nuance on Twitter? Is a thread nuance on Twitter? Or is it just is it just a platform for a totally different purpose?
I think I agree with you that it is very hard to be nuanced on Twitter. And like, I think the thing I always have to like remember, or the thing that I always like say to myself and to other people, is that like one of the issues with these platforms is that they don't exist as like as an altruistic kind of like functional tool, right? Like they exist for like capitalistic reasons. They exist because they want to drive engagement. They want to profit off of the fact that we're on this platform. Like they want to use us to get money, basically. And there's always a tension between the fact that like there are people I know who, and like myself included, that like find a lot of kind of joy, like genuine joy and like authentic connection on a platform like Twitter. But at the same time, also the knowledge that like this platform is not actually designed with our interests in mind.
Totally.
that like I think part of the lack of nuance is because the platform is pushing for a lack of nuance, because it means there's more like engagement and there's more arguing and there's more fighting, and that will draw people into the platform more. Like it's not
the less space to express yourself, the more hyperbole, the more fights, the more terror reigns on our lives.
And that gets rewarded. Like the platform has like figured out a way to make it feel like, oh, if I have the hot take, I'm gonna feel the best that I've ever.
Oh my god! And it honors impulsivity in a way, and that's like a dangerous. Anyway, we could go on and on, honey. I'm not to brag. I'm going to pluck a question from the Q&A, which will also serve as a reminder to you amazing angels that the Q&A is open. I will be rolling questions from it. First question, Jonny, are you ready?
Is Jonny still part of the Dylan Nation?
Well, you can answer that. I'm going to say answering live. What is it?
I would like to say yes. I would hope that I too am perhaps like close to the center of Dylan Nation,
Jonny,
but that is not
kidding
up to me.
You're like the guest of honor. I'll make you a throne in the center.
Oh, excellent.
Okay, good. So Jonny, I live in the center of Jonny Sun universe, and then Jonny just sits on a throne in the middle of mine. I think that's pretty great.
I love the like what does the word still, like the work that
I know
still,
anonymous
that, like,
attendee, you really there's a whole story in this. If you want to talk about finding nuance in small phrases, like you told a whole story. Is Jonny still part of Dylan Nation? LOL. It suggests that Jonny might not be, because we had a falling out, which is very apparent from how clearly we are enemies right now in the way we're talking to each other. And then LOL, is it all a joke? Is that a statement on apathy on Twitter? You know, who knows? Detached irony. Okay, I'm going to say that was answered. Oh, and then by the way, it's not in the chat.
Oh, I see.
Okay, not in the chat, but it is, Q&A is open, I think, is what this angel anonymous attendee is telling us. That's not the question I was going to ask you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You brought us off course, and this incredible anonymous attendee did too. It's my publicist who asked that. So this is coming from Katie. Hi, Jonny. I feel like you have this talent of verbalizing certain feelings / experiences that so many people can relate to, but can't put into words. Is there any trick to this or strategy that helps you do that? Amazing question, Katie. I'm curious about that too.
That is a great question. I'm sorry, Dylan. Don't be jealous. Please don't be jealous that that's
okay. Katie, I'm coming for you after this. We're gonna duke it out.
No, I thank you very much. First of all, that's a huge honor. I think like part of it is I think something that like people don't necessarily expect from me, that like I'm a huge cynic in a lot of ways, of like if cynic is the wrong word, I think I'm like hugely critical of mainly myself, and also kind of like I think I have a critical personality for certain things, especially when they're related to like emotion and the expression of that, where like I think I mainly hate most of my own writing until it gets to like a point where I don't hate it anymore. And I think part of that feeling is like, oh, if I write something and it feels like too direct or too kind of like saccharine or too general, sometimes I'll be like, this is terrible. This is not and it feels like it's not accurate to what I'm trying to say. And so like I think a lot of the whittling down and the zooming in of getting to like a series of words that do feel accurate and do feel specific comes from me not liking the rest of it until I got to that point. I think a lot of the time too is that I've always turned to writing as a way of like getting this stuff down and like trying to get it out of my head. And I've always like felt that writing something out and writing it down and taking the time to like focus on figuring out how to describe something is a really good way for me to stop having it bother me, because once I can like put it to words and I feel happy about how I've put it to words, then I can be like, oh, well, that's this thing, and this thing exists like on my computer, and it doesn't exist just in my head anymore. So it feels like there's a little bit of distance, and that helps. And then I can point to that thing. So I think like having that like personal like meaning in terms of that type of writing has helped me kind of get to that. And also I think it's just like really focusing on it and putting aside time and energy to look at it in those ways, and just like choosing to focus on that in terms of like that being a topic of my writing has helped. And it's just a constant practice. I think like I feel like I've gotten better at it and like continue to grow and develop as a writer the more time I kind of spend focusing on that. Yeah.
You talk about therapy. This is a follow-up to our angel Katie's question. So Katie, you're just going to win this question game. But this is a follow-up, which is that you talk about therapy so much, and you shout out your therapist in the acknowledgements. Love that. Shout out to Krister.
Yeah.
But see, I said Jonny Sun Nation.
You read it.
But I was curious, do you write for therapy? Like, do you write in preparation for therapy? Or do you write afterwards? How does writing, or does writing at all fit into therapy for you?
That's a great question as well.
Katie,
I think
deal with it.
Take that, Katie.
Yeah, take that, Katie. Katie, I love you.
Yeah, we love you, Katie. It's interesting. I heard our dear mutual friend Sarah Kay. Someone had asked her a question similar to that, and she said her answer was like, no, because therapy is therapy, and like I feel like as a creative, you never want to like conflate the two, because there is like a specific purpose for therapy and a specific like way that happens that is different from writing. I would say like writing for me is a form of expression that can feel like therapeutic or cathartic, but that like my relationship with therapy specifically is a very different thing. It's related, but it's different. But in terms of sometimes I do write after therapy, that like therapy becomes like a method of trying to work something out, and like a guided method towards working something out, I think is like the really important part. Whereas like the distinction I think between that and writing is like self-guided, and it sometimes you need like that outside person or that second person who is a trained professional and knows what they're doing to like help you figure out healthy ways of thinking about things, or to help like lead you towards certain things that I wouldn't necessarily be able to get to by myself.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes I do figure something out through therapy that I'm like, oh, I would like to write this down and expand on it. So they're related, but different, but they sort of like, yeah, they're kind of related.
Yeah, no, that's helpful and amazing. I'm gonna mark Katie's perfect question as done. So I think, well, one thing I just wanted to bring up is you write, which I was so pleased to see you write so much about Elisa, who I am a huge fan of. And I am lucky enough to know Elisa and love Elisa, but I was hoping that you could tell us a little about how it seems like she is so there for all of you're texting her throughout the book. She's giving advice throughout the book. She gave a piece of advice. Again, I'm going to read from my transcription of your book that I have been sending out to the universe. Here's a piece of advice she gave you. I'm quoting, "You have your entire life to worry about the rest of your life. Just get through today. Don't tell yourself don't worry, but just worry smaller." I mean, I just want to say, Elisa, worry smaller is like, I have been seeing a therapist for 10 years. I think you nailed it. I think I am done. I will never be done. But Elisa is brilliant and amazing. I would love to have you tell us
She's right
a little
there,
more.
by the way.
Elisa,
she's in the room.
Okay. she's hiding. Lisa, I love you, I miss you. But she is so clearly such a big part of this book. I was hoping that you could talk a little, this might be embarrassing with her in the room, but tell us a little about Lisa and how she fits into your writing practice, your living practice, your life.
I mean, like, she's my everything, right? She is, I love her. Like, I don't know what to say beyond that. I feel like I mean, one of the best parts about being with her is that I feel like I get to experience life as being like somebody that there is a real like joy and like bigness to understanding that like you are not just like you, but you also exist in somebody else's life, and to sort of like have that understanding so intimately with someone you love is just like, it's the greatest thing, because it just like opens up your world, I think. And then in terms of like, I wouldn't be able to do anything that I do without her, because she's like the most supportive and brilliant and smart person. She's looking at me right now. But there is just that, like, she's the most generous person I know too, and like the most like smart and courageous and just insightful person. And so I feel like I just got really lucky in like finding her. And a lot of, I think, what I've been able to do is because I have such a supportive partner who listens to me and who like treats everything that I experience as like a valid and meaningful thing. And like just the fact to be seen and heard and like validated so clearly by like the person that you love is like the greatest gift that anyone could give anybody else. And that, like, I think my sort of approach to writing and like the clarity that I have is all because of her, and like knowing that there is this person who sees me, and I hope that I can like do the same for her. And yeah, I don't know.
Oh my God, I love this. Okay, that's the next book. It's just me fawning over you guys. That's actually my book. I'm gonna delete everything I've written already. It's gonna be called Elisa and Jonny. So deal with that. Okay, this coming in hot from the Q&A. Are you ready, my love?
Let's do it.
This is from an angel named Alice. Jonny, do you journal?
Hi, Alice. Alice, I think Alice has come to every single one of these
Alice! Okay, maybe you're
totally
the center
amazing.
of Jonny Universe, and we are neighbors with our houses. Yeah.
Right. And you, Alice, you are now part of Dylan Nation as well.
Oh my God. Okay, well, Alice, congratulations.
Do I journal? I feel like I don't want to say I do, because I don't have the discipline of journaling. I think like people who like really journal, and I respect this so much because I cannot do this, is they have like a practice, like it's a daily practice or weekly practice, where like if I think I've started to try journaling a few times in my life, and like by week 2 I like have forgot about it, or like or I think the worst thing is that it's become like the schedule and the discipline becomes more of like a pressure thing than like a relief thing, that like as soon as I start to like not follow the schedule, it's done. It's just, there's so much anxiety around it, and then I'm like, oh, I missed like when I was supposed to journal yesterday, so I'm gonna journal like twice as much today, and then I don't do it in a week, and I'm like, I have to write 10 pages now instead of 1, and like that's like, I'm not good with like schedules in that way. But I feel like I do something like journaling, which is I try to write down everything that I feel like is worth writing down, or that I feel like is like an idea that might be interesting. And in a sense, like I mean, something that people have said about this book, which has been very kind, is that it feels almost like a personal diary made public. And I think that's like sort of what I wanted to do, which was I wanted to take a lot of like very personal feelings and ideas and make them present them in a way that is legible and kind of like accessible to somebody who's not like me, but at the same time make it feel like they can live inside my brain for a bit. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like now it's getting off the question of like, do you journal?
No, because I'm curious because so like for me, it's the Notes app. Like what is your, I also have a journal that it's been like a few months and then I'm like, I have so much to catch up on to tell you. And then my journal's gonna be like, you gotta stop. Like, it's okay. I've done fits and starts of morning pages, all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll do like a whole week of morning pages and be like, this feels amazing. And then I'll stop doing morning pages. So the Notes app for me has been a really helpful thing of like, I have a thought, just put it there, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is your receptacle for just a fleeting thought idea? What is it?
Totally. It is. It's also, well, actually, even before I say it's also the Notes app, and like just, I don't even know why I'm showing my Notes app. It doesn't matter. Like everyone knows what a Notes app looks like, and I also don't want anyone.
Okay, this is good to know. I actually never knew. Thank you.
Oh, great. Oh, excellent. Can you night mode? Are you in night mode on your Notes app? Is that
no? I'm not in night mode. Are you in night
day
mode?
Right? No, I'm like mine's all day mode.
Yeah.
One thing though that like when you were asking that question made me think of something else is I think I also don't have like the generosity to myself to journal in the sense that like with morning pages, for example, you're supposed to like, I think the idea of morning pages, you're supposed to write and then like that doesn't go anywhere. It just exists and it's done. But there's like that part of my brain that's like, if I write something, I can't just like let it exist. It has to be part of something. And like that like pressure for everything you produce to like be like quote unquote valuable also makes me really scared, because then it's like if I'm journaling, it has to be like the most brilliant thing.
Yeah, it's like who you're writing for is the other thing. And it's like, oh, is this supposed to be coherent? Because, and like someone's gonna find this, right? You know, like some anthropologist 1,000 years from now is like gonna be like, oh, Jonny Sun. And then our worst fears are going to be realized that he was so bad. His ideas were so dumb.
It's and like in the museum of Dylan Marron, it'll be like, oh, on June 12th, like 2019, Dylan wrote the worst thing
ever. And then everyone of the future humans are going to come and be like, thank God we're not that bad. Thank God we're not so stupid. So that's what I think about. Truly, every time I journal, it's like, it doesn't feel private for me, because on the Notes app, again, now I am the tech skeptic that I was warning everyone about, but like, I'm sure like there are 5 government agencies reading my Notes app, you know, and like 2 employees at different companies that are like shell companies for other companies. And with my journal, I'm also like, this could so easily drop into someone's hands and someone is going to read this. So like I write with this like fear of like, gotta write good and smart things, you know, like I've never really dished in my journal like Harriet the Spy or something. So wow, thank you, Alice, for allowing me to go on my rant about journals. I wanted to get to a question I had. Oh God, there's so many things I want to talk to you about, honey. No. We're running out of time. No. Okay, so this is like an official Barbara Walters question that I prepared. Just meaning that I'm curious, but I also had to write it down because I didn't want to mince words. So forgive me. I'm going to be, just imagine me. I'm sitting back in my chair. I'm really well lit, and I'm reading from index cards, okay, right? Okay, that's what you're seeing. Yeah. Okay. So, Jonny, my angel, in the NPR review of your book, Janet Lee, honey, deal with it. Come on, it's the Barbara Walters question. You got to get with the program. Jonny, let me start over. In the NPR, Jonny, don't laugh. Okay. In the NPR review of your book, which I just don't want to brag, it's a rave, Janet W. Lee writes, It isn't always apparent that his respective stories are tied to his identities, but every essay in Goodbye Again is peppered with nuances informed by his constant moves, self-imposed expectations, and bittersweet goodbyes, recognizable at first sight to another third culture kid in America. So you write a lot about your family, a lot about their recipes, and a lot about their relationship to various small businesses around them. But you don't always write about identity directly, but I also feel like it's part of everything that you write about. Just,
Yeah.
I agree with Janet. So, and of course, like in Everyone's an Alien, you also are writing as an outsider who comes to observe humans.
Yeah.
So do you think about identity as you write? Is it a conscious part of your writing? Is it consciously part of you? Talk to us.
Yeah, I think it's like maybe the most integral in the sense that it's like I think a lot of my writing is trying to figure out like who exactly I am, and like that by putting it down, it becomes like a piece of it, right? That like,
Yeah.
I think one thing that I think maybe one reason that I don't like explicitly write about like identity with a capital I is because I'm not sure I have those answers, or every time I try to write about it, it doesn't feel complete, right? It feels like there is like a scary thing about, I think, for me, writing about identity, in the sense that like as soon as you start to write about it, it feels like it becomes flattened. That like as soon as I start to like articulate it,
Yeah.
the thing that becomes most apparent is that there's all the other stuff that I'm not mentioning in the writing about it that also feels worthwhile. And so like I feel like my like approach to it has always been to be like a bit circuitous, and to sort of have it exist in every piece, but without like fully naming it, because I think as soon as I try to name it, it doesn't, it feels false, I guess.
Oh yeah.
But
it's also such a big thing to write about that then
Yeah.
you're like, I can't do this. You also don't want to be the like speaker for all people of the identity that you are
Right.
writing about. So
I
but
also
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
No, you first.
No, I think there's also just like I don't even know who I really am.
Yeah.
Like how can I do that without but I think the point is too that there is no answer. And I think like I look up to people who like write more directly about identity, because it's something that seems just so like daunting and challenging for me.
Yeah.
So maybe I've taken like the coward's way out.
And that's our takeaway today, is that you've
Absolutely.
taken the coward's way out.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going back to the perfect. Ooh, okay. Love this lighthearted question from Sarah. Do you listen to music when you write? If so, who/what kind of music?
That is a great question, Sarah. Sorry, Dylan. That it is
okay,
a great
Sarah. Stop.
I feel like it's almost like the same answer to journaling, where like I once I find music that I enjoy, or like once I start to settle into like a writing habit, a week later it'll be like the most impossible habit to maintain. So like there have been stops and starts during the book where I've listened to music. I've listened, I think I've gone from listening to music with words in it to instrumental. There's a great video game. It's an indie game. It came out in 2019. It's called A Short Hike. It's made by one person. His name is Adam. Adam Ryu Robinson, I believe. And it's a little game about a bird named Claire, who like is on an island visiting her aunt and has to climb a big mountain. And like while Claire climbs the mountain, she meets all these different like animal villagers around the island who like help her in some way or another climb the mountain. And it's the cutest. It's so good. And I don't want to ruin the like ending, but the ending is also such an emotional like hammer that it just completely like destroys your heart and opens it up. But everyone should play it. It's only like a 4-hour long game, but I love the music for that, and I play that in the background sometimes because it's very kind of pleasant, and it evokes like a certain emotion and nostalgia, which was very helpful for this book in particularly, because I wanted to write about memory and nostalgia, and something about that soundtrack or that game specifically like opened up a portal to like some feeling that I hadn't felt in a very long time. So I would say the Short Hike soundtrack. And then the other thing is when I draw, I need something more engaging than music, where like for most of the book, this is also a very like, this is a weird deep cut, but like for most of the book when I was illustrating it, I was I found Bill Hader interviews to watch, because he has done a bunch of I think Bill Hader is hilarious, and he's also great because he talks very openly about anxiety and like his mental health, and how much SNL destroys him like emotionally, which also is like that's such a great story of like a very well-known performer who like performing is the hardest thing. I think that's like a great, but he has weirdly done so many long interviews that like I just kind of went into a rabbit hole. And as soon as it's not Bill Hader, as soon as like another SNL person doing a long interview, I'm like, this isn't it. I have to go
Bill
find
Hader
another
interviews. That's so interesting. Wow, I know that people tune out and listen to podcasts. It has to be like sugar pop music for me. Like when I'm doing something, I don't draw.
You're in a montage. You want to be in the montage.
Oh my God, I'm in a montage all the time. Or I am performing at my own Super Bowl halftime show, over and over again.
Yeah.
But really, montage is it. I found for anyone out there who's looking, Little Mix is this pop band from England. They're a girl group. It is like pop, sugar pop, and just praise to Little Mix. So this is so sad because we are out of time. So I want to ask a last question, which is that, hi, Rose, can I ask one? Oh, wait, Rose.
No, not yet.
It's the end of Titanic. I'm yelling Rose. Rose, my angel, my queen, can I ask one more question, or is it time?
Oh, you can ask one more question.
Oh my God, okay. Jonny, so this book was kind of born out of burnout. It's kind of about how you cope with burnout. And yet I would love to know, like, what's the update? How are you dealing with it? It's also funny that you're on a book tour, which is quite literally a recipe for burnout. And you're talking about, it's like, what a week to be talking about a book about burnout. How are you dealing with burnout this week? And if that's too big a question, today?
That is a great question. Thank you for seeing right through me, because I feel very emotionally tapped out. That like it's been a very wild. I mean, like you will experience this when your book comes out, but like Pub Week is just, it's every emotion you could possibly feel at the same time, and so that's been a lot. Luckily, it's been a lot of good emotion, like love, but it's like more, it's also like more attention, like more focused attention than I'm normally used to, and so I'm just like a little bit frazzled. I made a goal to myself to like respond to every tweet that someone sends me about the book.
What?
But then but then 3 days ago, I burnt myself out of that too. So like if you've tweeted at me in the last couple of days and I haven't been online, I'm sorry. But it's also like really, what's really soul filling is like the hour of the talk when I get to talk to my friend, and like that kind of fills me up. But then right after I like find like I crash again.
You're gonna crash hard. I every time I do a Zoom, because I do like college talks, lectures on Zoom.
By the way, book Dylan for a college talk. One of the first times we ever like hung out really was I booked you for a talk at MIT. True. I was doing.
I just want to say The reason I was like, this has got to be good when I talked to Jonny is because your questions were like brilliant and amazing. And I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. So anyway, you're brilliant. But I was just going to say, you interrupted me, rude.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, it's okay. I'll sue you later. But what I was going to say, Rose, she's back. What I was just going to say is that after I do give a talk, I'm like, why was that exhausting? I'm just at my computer, and then I go and I like nap for like 8 hours, and then I have another 8 hours of sleep. So Jonny, I want you to crash. I want you to do whatever feels right after this. So I just want to say again, this book is incredible. I feel, Jonny, lucky to know you. Please buy this book. Tell your friends to buy this book. Tell your plants to buy this book. Buy this book for your plants. And that's all I have to say, Jonny. It was such a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to join you here today.
Thank you for doing this, Dylan. I love you so much.
I love you.
Thank you to both of you for joining us tonight. What a wonderful talk. You really toed the line between, like, I was laughing and I was really in my feels, and it was just wonderful. So you guys did a great job. Thank you so much. And we got a lot of great questions. Thank you to everyone who participated. Any closing remarks, or are we feeling good?
I feel great. Buy Jonny's book, and thank you so much for having us. And Rose, thank you so much for being so amazing and hosting us in your lovely digital home.
Yeah, it's lovely to be here. It's
yes,
great.
yes.
It's
lovely
amazing
to have you here.
Rose, you have the best background, and it's a real Zoom
Thank
background.
you.
So
Yeah,
it's so good.
I'm very excited.
It keeps going.
Fancy.
Yeah.
It keeps going.
Wow.
Well, thank you both. Thank you, everyone who was here. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the sun if it's sunny where you are. Thank you.
Bye.
Great. Thank you.
Bye.